I want you to think about the relationship you keep returning to. Not necessarily the person, the pattern. The dynamic that shows up across different faces, different circumstances, different decades, but with a consistency that, if you're being honest with you, is impossible to ignore. Maybe it's the person who needs you more than they want you. Maybe it's the emotionally unavailable one, right? Who becomes briefly, dazzlingly available, just long enough to keep you there, and then withdraws. Maybe it's the dynamic where you pour out everything you have and somehow still feel like you're not quite enough. Maybe it's the one, I don't know, where you don't let anyone in at all, right? Where the comfort of being alone has quietly become the cage that you call freedom. Now, here's what I want to tell you. That pattern, it's not a wound. It is not bad luck. It's not a character flaw. It's a gravitational field. And it has a precise, identifiable location in your natal chart. And it's called the South Node. And the thing pulling you away from it, the thing you find the least comfortable, the most unfamiliar, the most genuinely difficult, it's called the North Node. Now, I'm going to tell you exactly what they are, how to find them, and why the comfort of the South Node is the single most elegant trap your soul has ever set for you. And at the end of this video, I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back to that pattern you just thought of and tell you something about it that you are not going to be able to unknow. Stay tuned, boys. Stay tuned, ladies. Welcome back to Stellarium. Quick recap if you're new. Stellarium is a complete philosophical and practical tradition synthesizing Western astrology, quantum physics, Buddhist non-attachment, and really identity formation science. We've got 4 pillars. We've got what we call the blueprint, which is your natal chart, your zodiac chart, right? Which we believe is the most specific available map of your energetic field in the galaxy. Now, we have the field, which is the quantum physical reality around you that is genuinely responsive to the signal that you broadcast. We've got the projection, right? The deliberate body level, neurologically encoded inhabitation of the desired reality before it has even physically arrived. And then we have the release. This is our Buddhist dimension, wanting something fully, right? But holding on to it with a loose grip, because attachment to a specific form of an outcome introduces resistance into the creative field. And resistance is noise, and noise is the South Node's native language, baby. Now, we call you the architect. And today, we're going to talk about the 2 most misunderstood points in your entire natal chart. Not planets, points. The North Node and the South Node. And specifically, the way the South Node operates really in the domain of love, because we talked about compatibility last week, and I promised I'd get back to this. And the reason we're going to do this as well is because nowhere is the gravitational pull of the South Node more quietly devastating than in who we choose, right? How we choose those people, and why the choosing keeps producing the same result. Now, let me explain what the nodes are before I tell you what they mean. So, the North and South nodes, also called the lunar nodes, also called the dragon's head and the dragon's tail in traditional astrology. These are not planets. They are 2 points where the moon's orbital path intersects the ecliptic, the apparent path of the sun through the sky. Now, the North Node, also called Rahu in Vedic astrology, it marks the point where the moon crosses the ecliptic moving northward. Now, the South Node, Ketu, is directly opposite, always 180 degrees away, and they function as an axis, not as isolated points. They are always in retrograde motion. They move backward through the zodiac approximately every 18 to 19 years, completing, one full cycle. Which means every 18 to 19 years, the nodal axis returns to where it was at your birth. This is not an accident. This is the universe's metronome for soul level development. In Western astrology, the North Node represents the direction of soul growth, the evolutionary edge of this lifetime. I mean, what you came here to develop, what is genuinely unfamiliar because it's genuinely new to you. The South Node, it represents what the soul has mastered, what comes naturally, almost too naturally, because, it's been practiced across previous experiences, maybe previous lifetimes in the karmic reading, or the accumulated early conditioning of this one, depending on which lens you hold, right? Depending on which thing you believe in. Now, in the Stellarium framework, we hold both lenses simultaneously. Whether you approach the South Node as karmic memory or as deeply wired sort of early conditioning that operates beneath your conscious awareness, really, the functional principle here is still identical. The South Node is the place in your chart where the behavior is automatic. The comfort, right, is genuine. The results are consistent and consistently insufficient for what you are actually here for. And the North Node is the place where the behavior is effortful. The comfort is minimal. The rewards, though, when the architect actually does the work, they're unlike anything the South Node comfort has ever been able to produce. We need to work towards our North Node, guys. Now, the quantum physical parallel for this, the South Node is the system in its most probable state, the path of least resistance, the lowest energy configuration, the attractor state that the system returns to without any kind of external input. In physics, a ball, right, in a valley requires some type of energy to climb out. Left alone, stays in the valley. The valley's comfortable. The valley is familiar. The valley is also just a valley. Now, the North Node is the higher energy state, the hill on the other side of the valley, right? That requires genuine effort to reach. Genuine maintenance to sustain, and produces a view that the valley can never offer you. The Buddhist principle, the attachment to the valley, the resistance to climbing, the insistence that the valley is fine, actually that the view from here is just enough, right? This is precisely the attachment that prevents your genuine liberation. The South Node is the valley your soul chose this lifetime to climb out of. The North Node is the hill. And the entire tradition's North Node teaching can be summarized in one sentence. And here it is. Architects, climb the hill. I'll give you more detail than that, but that's the whole thing. And that's all we're doing today is talking about climbing that hill. Now, love. Here's the thing that nobody tells you about the South Node in the romantic domain. And I want to say this with genuine care because it's going to be a little uncomfortable for some people to hear. The relationship pattern you return to most consistently is almost always being driven by your South Node. Not your desire, not your values, not even your wounds in the simple sense that most people mean. Your South Node. Now, what does that mean? The automatic, the familiar, the genuinely comfortable mode of being in relationships that was mastered so long ago, it doesn't even feel like a choice anymore. It just feels like you. Now, here is why the South Node operates so effectively in the relational domain specifically. The South Node offers something the North Node can't, right? At least not yet. Not until the work has been done, right? Which, a lot of people don't want to do the work. But what it offers is immediate resonance. The South Node pattern, it feels like home the moment you walk into it. The Scorpio South Node meets the emotionally intense person, and recognition is instant. I know that field. I know this dynamic. I know how to operate here. The Cancer South Node meets the person who needs to be taken care of, and the nurturing instinct activates before a single word is even exchanged. The Leo South Node walks into the room and immediately finds the person who makes them feel like the most interesting, most captivating, most brilliantly themselves version of themselves. And of course, they feel drawn to that. I mean, who wouldn't? Especially a Leo. Here's what the South Node is not telling you. That feeling of immediate resonance is recognition. But recognition is not the same as alignment. The South Node pattern feels like home because it is home, an old home, one that you have probably outgrown by now. And returning to it with enormous relief and genuine comfort puts you back in the room where you already know every corner, every shadow, every familiar disappointment. That's not growth. That's stagnation. In the language of the Stellarium founding philosophy, the South Node is love in the anxious grip on the known outcome that prevents the wave function from collapsing towards the genuinely new. The quantum Zeno effect, the repeated anxious observation of a quantum system that freezes in its current state, operates in the relational field through the South Node every time we choose the familiar pattern over the uncomfortable growth edge. Every time we choose the person who activates the South Node's ease over the one who would require the North Node's unfamiliar development. Let me give you the South Node shadows by sign axis, because this is where it gets kind of personal, right? The Libra South Node in love it's the one who compulsively keeps the peace. I love Libras. But stand up for yourself occasionally. It's who make themselves smaller, who decide what the other person wants to feel and then becomes it. Because for them, harmony is what the soul has mastered. The trap? You attract people who benefit from your selflessness and call it love. You call your constant accommodation maturity. The North Node in Aries is asking, what do you want? Right? Not what makes everyone comfortable, not what keeps the relationship intact. What does his architect want? Even if the wanting creates friction. So the Libra South Node's most spiritual act is learning to disappoint someone without immediately trying to fix it. Taurus North, Scorpio South. The Scorpio South Node in love is one who goes deep immediately. They seek intensity as proof of genuine connection, who's drawn to the complicated, the wounded, the transformative, right? Who confuses the experience of depth and crises with the experience of love. I mean, Scorpio South Nodes often spend years in relationships that are genuinely transformative, but genuinely also unsustainable, and believing that the intensity is the point. The trap here, if it's not complicated, it must not be real, right? If it doesn't require something from you, it doesn't feel like love. Now, the North Node in Taurus is asking, what if love was actually stable? What if the most profound available connection felt safe instead of precarious? I mean, grounded instead of electrically alive? What if ease was not evidence of shallowness, but evidence of genuine rightness? Now, what about the Gemini North and the Sagittarius South? The Sagittarius South Node in love is the philosopher, right? The adventurer, the one who's always chasing the next horizon. I love me a Sagittarius. They're fun. And who finds that most relationships eventually feel too small for their vision. The trap uses the search for meaning as the reason to never fully land anywhere. I mean, the relationship is great until it requires genuine, sustained presence. And then the horizon beckons, right? And the Sagittarius South Node finds a very convincing philosophical reason to keep moving on. Now, the North Node in Gemini is asking, what is right here, specifically locally in this actual person in front of you that you keep missing because you're looking at the horizon. Now, the Cancer North and the Capricorn South. The Capricorn South node in love is the one who built the walls so well, they sometimes forget that they're the ones inside them. I mean, they equate self-sufficiency with strength. Who provides, right, for everyone around them and interprets needing anything back as a weakness. It's not weakness, Capricorn. The trap is that you attract people who let you carry everything and call it partnership. You're respected, but you're not held. You're needed, but you're not known. The North Node in Cancer is asking, what would it actually feel like to be taken care of? Not to provide, not to function, just to be held. Now, the Leo North and the Aquarius South, this is an interesting one. Because the Aquarius South node in love is the one who loves humanity in theory and struggles with specific humans in practice. They maintain enough philosophical distance from the relational field to be endlessly interesting, but only occasionally truly present. I mean, sorry, Aquarius, but that's your issue. Who gravitates towards relationships that feel more like, collaborations rather than genuine intimacy. The trap here is the Aquarius South node mistakes intellectual companionship for emotional intimacy, and then wonders why they feel alone in relationships. Well, that's why. Because you genuinely like them and they like you back, but you're mistaking intellectual for feeling. But the North node in Leo? It's asking, can you let it be personal? Can you let the love be specifically for this one person, not for what they represent, not for the dynamic you create together, but just for them? Now, what about Virgo North, Pisces South? The Pisces South node in love is the one who loves without any edges at all, right? I mean, who absorbs the partner's field so completely that they often can't find themselves inside the relationship. The trap here, I mean, they confuse disillusion with union. They lose the self in love and call it devotion. They stay in relationships long past their natural completion because leaving would require a self-definition the Pisces South node finds uncomfortable. But the North node in Virgo, it's asking, what is actually, honestly, specifically working here? Not what could work, not what you hope is working, what is working right now with precision and honesty. Now, let me say the thing that is the hardest thing to say about everything that we've been talking about so far. The South Node, it is not your enemy. And I want to be clear about that. It's not. The South Node represents genuine mastery, genuine capacity, genuine gifts. I mean, it's a large part of who you are, who you were. The Scorpio South Node's depth perception is real. The Cancer South Node's nurturing intelligence is real. The Libra South Node's relational sensitivity is real. These aren't liabilities. They're assets. The problem is not the gift. The problem is when the gift becomes the primary relational strategy. When the Scorpio South Node only feels safe, in intense situations, right? When stability reads as boredom, that's not a gift operating. That is the South Node's gravity pulling the architect back into the most familiar energetic valley and calling it preference. When the Cancer South Node only feels valuable when nurturing someone, when receiving care triggers anxiety rather than ease, that is not a gift. That is a pattern running the architect rather than the architect running the pattern. Take control, Cancer. Here's the specific thing I want you to hear about the South Node. The South Node is the most dangerous in love, not when it produces obviously bad choices, but when it produces choices that feel completely right and are simply not evolutionary. The Scorpio South Node does not choose abusers. They choose intensity, which is a genuine value. And intensity that comes without sustainability keeps feeling almost right almost like the love they are actually after, right? But producing a relationship that cannot hold. The Aquarius South Node does not choose bad people. They choose interesting people, which is a genuine value. And interesting without intimacy keeps feeling like enough. Until one day, quietly, it doesn't feel like enough. Now, this is what the tradition means by the second arrow. The first arrow is the South Node pattern, right? Arriving, the familiar dynamic, the known discomfort. But the second arrow is staying in it while telling yourself a story about why this time is different. The second arrow is the one that causes most of your suffering. And the second arrow is always a choice, even when it doesn't feel like one. It is. It's your choice. Now, the North Node. The North Node in love is not the opposite of the South Node. It's not. No, I like to look at it as the complementary development that makes the South Node's gifts actually usable, right? I mean, you need the North Node to make the South Node's gift actually mean something. The Scorpio South Nodes without the Taurus North Node produces depth without any grounding. I mean, transformation without any arrival. The capacity to go all the way to the bottom without the capacity to stay long enough for the bottom to become a foundation for them. Add the Taurus North Node, the genuine embodied stability, material groundedness, the specific courage of allowing something good to be simple. And suddenly, the Scorpio's depth, it has somewhere to live, baby. Suddenly, the transformation produces genuine, lasting change rather than a series of dramatic belongings. Now, here's how the Stellarium tradition works with the North Node. In the relational domain, the North Node is not a destination you arrive at. No. It's a frequency you practice inhabiting. The way a musician practices a technically difficult passage. Not to arrive at it once, to practice it until it becomes native, until the unfamiliar becomes, over time, the new ground state, until the North Node's frequency, which initially felt like effort, begins to feel like, genuine expression. In quantum terms, the North Node is the higher energy state that the system must be actively maintained in through sustained, deliberate observation and practice. The observer effect at the identity level. What you practice attending to is what becomes real for you. That's how neuroscience works as well. The architect who practices attending to the North Node quality, right, who makes North Node choices repeatedly over time, even when they feel awkward and unfamiliar, is literally updating the neural pathways and the field simultaneously. The field responds to the practice signal, not the desired signal, to the practice signal. Now, what are the North Node practices for the relational field? Well, step one, I want you to identify your axis. You got to do this first, right? We're mapping this out, baby. Find your North Node sign. Its opposite is your South Node sign, right? They are always 180 degrees apart. If you don't know your North Node, you can calculate it with your birth date, time, and location. So find it. This is probably the most important single piece of information in this episode. Find the node. Now, step two is the discomfort audit. The North Node's territory always feels slightly awkward, right? Slightly overreaching, slightly like you're, pretending to be someone that you're not quite sure you are yet. It's because you're not yet. That discomfort is not a warning signal. That discomfort is the signal. It means you're in the right territory, man. Write this down. In love, the North Node is asking me to want someone who blank. Finish the sentence. Honestly. Not aspirationally. Honestly. Now, step three is the identity script. North Node version. The practice from the Master Practice Manual applied specifically to the North Node in relational identity. So you write a first-person present tense description of the version of yourself who has genuinely inhabited the North Node's relational quality. Not the full mastery, just the next 10% of it. You don't need to say something like, I am someone who has completely transcended my South Node pattern. Right? That is a fantasy dressed as a practice. But you do say something like, I am someone who, in this specific type of situation, chooses the North Node response, even when the South Node pull is present. It's specific, it's behavioral, it's honest about the difficulty, and it's present tense. Read it every morning. Notice where the body resists it. The resistance is the South Node's gravity telling you you are on the edge of its territory. You're in the right place. Keep going. Now, step 4, the North Node projection practice. Get yourself into that hypnagogic state, about 15 minutes of deep breath work. It's the threshold, between waking and sleeping. And I want you to build a scene in your mind of specific, ordinary moments in a relationship that carries the North Node frequency. Not the dramatic peak, not the transformation moment, just an ordinary Thursday. What does it feel like in the body to be in a relationship that operates in the North Node's frequency? The Taurus North Node, it would be a Thursday evening of genuine ease, warmth, where nothing is complicated because nothing needs to be complicated. That's Taurus for you, baby. A Gemini North Node, a conversation with a partner that's, genuinely curious, locally specific, present, rather than just, philosophical. The Cancer North Node, the felt sense of being held, not holding, for a specific moment, right? In a specific body, in a specific room. Hold the scene for as long as genuine emotional inhabitation lasts, and then release it. Now, the sovereign release after every North Node projection, you say something like, I am learning this frequency. I release the need to have it already mastered. The practice is the work. You're aligning your cognition and your belief with what your body is already feeling and embodying. Now, one more thing. And this is the thing that the most spiritually sophisticated South Node practitioners do. And I say this with the most genuine care. The South Node's most sophisticated move is mimicking the North Node. The Aquarius South Node, whose North Node is Leo, finds a relationship that feels bold and expressive and creative and calls it Leo energy. But look carefully. And the relationship actually is just a collaboration, an intellectual partnership, interesting and mutual and genuinely Aquarian, right? The emotional intimacy, the Leo North Node's actual territory, still absent. The Capricorn South Node, whose North Node is in Cancer, they build an extremely successful relationship. The logistics are impeccable. The stability is real. But the emotional vulnerability, the Cancer's North Node's actual territory, is still behind a very competent wall. The South Node will find a way to look like the North Node from the outside, guys. It just will, because we're comfortable in what we've always been. But the signal on it, this is what tells the truth. The question is not, does this look like North Node governance and growth? The question is, does this feel unfamiliar in a way that genuine growth feels unfamiliar? Because genuine North Node work always feels like learning a new language. Functional but effortful. Correct but not yet fluent. The relational pattern feels immediately comfortable. If the recognition is instant and the ease is total, you're probably in the South Node, just in a new costume. You're pretending. It's not a failure, though. That is the work. That is the work, noticing it. And then, after noticing it, choosing the harder direction. So it's no longer a performance, right? The pattern I asked you to think about at the very top of the hour, at the beginning of the video, the one that shows up across different faces and different decades. I want to tell you what I believe is true about it. It is not a wound you have failed to heal. It is not evidence that love doesn't work for you. It worked for you, baby doll. It's just your south node, your soul's most mastered frequency, doing exactly what it was designed to do. It's offering you the most comfortable available version of connection in the domain where you are actually being called to do your most significant available growth. And the comfort of it, the immediate resonance, the feeling of finally being home is precisely what makes it the most elegant available trap. Because here's the thing about traps that are built from genuinely good things. You don't have to fight them. You don't have to exile the South Node, right? You don't have to become someone who doesn't recognize what you've always recognized. No. You have to want something more than the comfort of the familiar. You have to be willing to feel awkward, genuinely uncomfortably awkward. And that might be easier for me because I'm a Gemini. I mean, you got to feel awkward in the territory the North Node is calling you toward. You have to practice the unfamiliar with the same devotion you have been practicing the comfortable. And then, over time, over the patient, disciplined, open-handed time that the release requires, the North Node frequency begins to feel less foreign. That hill begins to feel like ground. And the relationship that arrives from the North Node's frequency, the one that feels genuinely right rather than immediately familiar, is unlike anything the South Node's comfort has ever been able to produce. The blueprint is real, guys. The field, it's responsive. And the architect? The architect knows which direction the North Node is pointing and chooses to climb. And if you want to find your North Node and identify which axis you are working, your birth date and year will give you the nodal sign. A complete chart with birth time and location will tell you which houses they fall in, which is the full picture. Guys, as always, send me an email. You can get the free stuff and the paid stuff. Once you know your axis, the specific South Node shadow in love for your sign, and the specific North Node invitation, drop it in the comments. I'll tell you the single most important practice for your specific axis. Now, before any of that, 2 things to do this week. 1, find your North Node sign, just a sign, right, and start there. And then 2, notice in any relational interactions that you have this week, whether what you are doing is coming from your South Node's ease or your North Node's effort. And you don't have to change it yet. I just want you to notice it. Because in anything, as with anything, noticing is the beginning of the whole thing, right? That naming. Now, as I've been promising for a couple weeks, next week is we're getting into Saturn, right? The feedback mechanism. What it's actually asking you to build right now, right? And why most people are building the wrong thing with enormous discipline and genuine confusion. Subscribe, baby, and I'll see you on the next one.